hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Marcus Alden sat in the school auditorium, the hard plastic chair pressing uncomfortably against his back. The familiar scent of floor polish and perfume hung in the air as parents and teachers assembled for the annual award ceremony. Marcus checked his watch. 6:58 p.m. His daughter Hallie would be backstage now, probably adjusting her speech card for the 10th time. His wife Liana shifted beside him, crossing her legs and sighing loudly. 2 rows ahead, Marcus spotted Principal Stokes nodding respectfully toward him. Marcus returned the gesture with a small smile. "Mother, over here," Liana called out, waving to the woman making her way down the aisle. Jeanette Calloway approached with the confident stride of someone who believed the world existed to serve her. Her pearl necklace caught the light as she settled into the seat Liana had saved. "The ceremony hasn't started yet? Why do they always run late at this school?" Jeanette's voice carried just enough to make nearby parents turn. Marcus leaned forward. "Good evening, Jeanette." "Marcus," she acknowledged with a thin smile that never reached her eyes. "Crowded in here. I suppose everyone's parents come to these things." The unspoken addendum, "unlike your parents," hung in the air. Marcus let it pass, as he always did. 20 years of Jeanette's subtle digs about his foster care background had built his immunity. "They're announcing the academic honors tonight," Marcus said instead. "Allie's work hard." Liana adjusted her blouse, her wedding ring catching the light. "She'll probably place well. Not first, but well." The curtains parted, and Principal Stokes stepped up to the microphone. The ceremony began with the presentation of certificates for various achievements: sports, community service, performing arts. Eventually, they reached academic excellence. "And now, we come to our Academic Honor Awards," Principal Stokes announced. "These students have demonstrated exceptional commitment to their studies." Liana leaned toward her mother, lowering her voice, but not enough for Marcus to miss her words. "She's just like her dad, always second place." Marcus's chest tightened. He kept his face neutral, a skill perfected through years of business negotiations. Jeanette laughed quietly. "At least she got your looks." Marcus watched as the students filed onto the stage. Hallie appeared, her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, her posture straight, but her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her blazer. She looked nervous. "And now, I'd like to invite this year's valedictorian to say a few words," Principal Stokes said. Hallie stepped forward, her voice catching slightly as she began. "Thank you, Principal Stokes. I'm honored to stand before you as this year's valedictorian." A moment of silence fell over the room. Marcus felt his heart swell with pride, even as surprise registered. Liana went still beside him. Jeanette's polite applause faltered. "I want to thank everyone who helped me reach this achievement," Hallie continued, her voice growing stronger. "Especially my father, who taught me that persistence matters more than natural talent." Marcus felt a lump form in his throat. Around him, parents and teachers broke into enthusiastic applause. He caught Principal Stokes nodding approvingly. Liana sat rigid, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, a forced smile plastered on her face. Jeanette's mouth had formed a perfect, disapproving O. When Hallie finished her brief speech and returned to her seat, Marcus watched her the entire way, his pride evident. When he finally turned to congratulate his wife on their daughter's achievement, he found Liana staring at her phone, her fingers typing rapidly. The drive home was quiet. Too quiet. Liana stared out the passenger window, while Hallie sat in the back, still riding the high of her achievement. "Dad, can we stop for ice cream?" Hallie asked as they approached their suburban neighborhood. "Of course," Marcus agreed, glancing at Liana. "Want anything?" "No," Liana replied curtly. "I have papers to grade tonight." At the ice cream shop, Marcus and Hallie sat at a small table outside, the evening air still warm with late spring. "You never told me you were valedictorian," Marcus said, watching his daughter carefully. Hallie shrugged, digging her spoon into chocolate fudge. "I wanted it to be a surprise." And she hesitated. And I wasn't sure how Mom would react." Marcus set his spoon down. "What do you mean?" Hallie's eyes dropped to her ice cream. "She told Mrs. Blake last week that I was solid middle of the pack." I heard her when I was dropping off some books at the teacher's lounge. Marcus felt that familiar tightness in his chest again. Your mom sometimes says things without thinking. She knew exactly what she was saying, Dad. Hallie's voice was quiet but firm, just like tonight. I heard what she said to Grandma. Marcus reached across the table, covering Hallie's hand with his own. Never let a jealous person rewrite your worth. Hallie's eyes filled with tears. Even if it's your mother? Especially then, Marcus said gently. You earned valedictorian through hard work. Nobody can take that away from you. When they arrived home, Liana was in their bedroom with the door closed. Marcus could hear her voice, low and irritated, presumably on the phone. Hallie went to her room, while Marcus stood in the hallway, listening. No, I can't talk now. Yes, it was a complete surprise. I know I said she wasn't that bright, but apparently. Marcus knocked sharply on the door. The call ended abruptly. Come in, Liana called. Marcus entered to find his wife sitting on their bed, grading papers with exaggerated focus. We need to talk about what happened tonight, he said. Liana didn't look up. What about it? Our daughter did well. Congratulations to us. I heard what you said to your mother. Hallie heard it too. Liana's red pen paused mid-mark. I was joking. You know how Mom and I talk. That wasn't a joke. That was cruelty. Liana finally looked up, her eyes narrowing. Don't be dramatic, Marcus. Hallie needs to toughen up if she's going to survive in the real world. She's 17, and you're her mother. If she can't count on your support, whose support can she count on? Liana stood, gathering her papers. I support her plenty. I'm just not blind to her limitations like you are. What limitations? She's valedictorian, and you're acting like she cured cancer. Liana moved toward the door. I need to finish these grades in my office. As she brushed past him, Marcus caught a whiff of unfamiliar cologne. Not his. Something spicier, younger. The kind of scent a man might wear to the gym. That night, he lay awake long after Liana had returned to bed and fallen asleep. Something was wrong. Something beyond Liana's usual cold demeanor toward their daughter. The cologne, the secretive phone call, the way she'd been checking her phone constantly during the ceremony. Marcus stared at the ceiling, piecing together fragments of the last few months. Liana's late nights at department meetings. The weekends away for professional development. Her new workout routine that always seemed to coincide with after-school hours that a suspicion began to form, dark and insidious. The next morning, Marcus rose early, leaving Liana still asleep. Saturday meant she'd sleep until at least 9, a routine as predictable as the sunrise. He made coffee and toast for Hallie, who joined him in the kitchen at 7, already dressed for her weekend job at the local bookstore. Big plans today? Hallie asked, spreading peanut butter on her toast. Just some yard work. Maybe help Silas with that transmission he's rebuilding. Hallie nodded, her eyes still carrying yesterday's hurt. Dad, do you think Mom hates me? The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. No, sweetie, your mom doesn't hate you. Then why does she always seem disappointed in me? Marcus chose his words carefully. Sometimes people project their own insecurities onto others. Your mom. She had very demanding parents. Nothing was ever good enough. So she's doing the same to me. I think she doesn't know how to stop the cycle. Marcus sipped his coffee. But that doesn't make it right. After Hallie left for work, Marcus wandered into the bedroom. Liana's purse sat on her dresser, the expensive one Jeanette had given her for Christmas. Something compelled him to look inside, but he hesitated, his hand hovering over the leather bag. In 17 years of marriage, he had never invaded Liana's privacy this way. But the cologne, the secretive calls, the emotional distance, it all pointed to something he needed to confirm or dismiss. Inside, beneath her wallet and makeup bag, he found a receipt. The Golden Oak Hotel, dated 2 weekends ago. Room service for 2. Champagne, strawberries, breakfast. The same weekend Liana had attended what she called an intensive curriculum workshop in Harrisburg. Marcus replaced everything exactly as he'd found it, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. He wasn't a man given to impulsive responses. If his suspicions were correct and the evidence was mounting, he needed to be strategic. He pulled out his phone and texted Silas. Free for a beer tonight. The response came quickly. Always. Murphy's at 8? Perfect. Need to talk. Monday morning arrived with rain pattering against the windows. Marcus drove Hallie to school, watching her gather her backpack and umbrella. "Want me to drop you at the front door?" he asked. "No thanks. I'm meeting Zoe to go over our physics lab." She hesitated. "Do you think Mom will be at the faculty meeting this morning?" "Probably." "What?" Hallie shrugged. "No reason. See you tonight." Marcus watched her hurry toward the entrance, rain darkening her hair. Something in her question nagged at him. Impulsively, he parked his car instead of driving away. The school was mostly empty this early. Marcus knew where Liana's classroom was, room 212, second floor, English department. He'd helped her move in years ago. Carrying boxes of books up the stairs while she directed where everything should go, he climbed the stairs silently, nodding to a custodian who recognized him. The hallway was deserted except for a few early students at their lockers. As he approached room 212, he heard Liana's laugh, not the polite chuckle she used at home, but a genuine, flirtatious sound he hadn't heard in years. The classroom door was cracked open. Marcus stood to the side, listening. "You can't keep looking at me like that," Liana was saying, her voice playful. "Like what?" A male voice replied, confident, younger sounding. "Like you're remembering Saturday." "Hard not to. The thing you did with." "Sure. Anyone could walk in. Relax. It's too early for students, and your husband drops Hallie off and goes straight to work. Always has, always will. Predictable as a clock." Marcus felt ice settle in his veins. The gymnasium was just down the hall. Dorian Blake, the physical education teacher Liana had mentioned with increasing frequency over the past year. "Dorian, we need to be careful. Harris is already suspicious. He asked me why I missed the actual curriculum workshop." "What did you tell him?" "That I had a migraine and stayed in my hotel room." "He didn't question it." "Smart woman." The sound of movement. "God, I love how you taste in the morning." Marcus stepped back, his face expressionless. He'd heard enough. He walked away quietly, down the stairs out to his car. Once inside, he sat motionless, rain drumming on the roof. His conversation with Silas from Saturday night played in his head. "I think Liana is having an affair." Silas had nodded slowly, not looking surprised. "How sure are you?" "Not 100%. But close." "What are you going to do?" "Nothing. Yet." "Nothing." Silas had raised an eyebrow. "That doesn't sound like you." "I'm going to watch. Listen. Document. I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with before I make any moves. And if you confirm it." Marcus had taken a long pull of his beer before answering. "Then I'll make sure she loses everything she values." Now, sitting in his car with the rain pouring down, Marcus took out his phone and made a voice memo. April 27th, 7:15 a.m. Overheard Liana and Dorian Blake discussing their affair in classroom 212. Referenced their meeting on Saturday. Confirmed Harris Stokes is unaware of their relationship. He started his car and drove to work, his face calm, his mind already plotting his next move. That evening, dinner was a tense affair. Liana moved around the kitchen with nervous energy, checking her phone whenever it buzzed. Department meeting run long. Marcus asked casually, setting the table. "What?" "Oh yes, end-of-year assessments." She didn't meet his eyes. "How was your day?" "Productive. The Johnston project is finally wrapping up." Hallie appeared in the doorway. "Can Zoe stay for dinner?" "We're still working on our lab report." "Of course." Marcus answered before Liana could respond. "I made plenty." Liana's mouth tightened, but she nodded. "Fine. But homework is done by 9, understood?" Throughout dinner, Marcus noticed how Liana barely engaged with their daughter or her friend. Her attention remained on her phone, which she kept beside her plate despite her strict no phones at dinner rule. After Zoe left and Hallie retired to her room, Marcus confronted Liana in the kitchen. "You weren't very present tonight." Liana rinsed a plate with unnecessary force. "I'm tired, Marcus." End of the school year is always stressful. I imagine sneaking around with Dorian Blake adds to that stress. The plate slipped from Liana's hands, clattering in the sink, but not breaking. She turned slowly, her face a mask of indignation. "Excuse me. You heard me." Liana crossed her arms. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Room service for 2 at the Golden Oak. The way you check your phone constantly. The cologne on your clothes." Marcus kept his voice level. I'm not stupid, Liana. For a moment, fear flashed in her eyes. Then it was replaced with cool calculation. You're being paranoid. Dorian is a colleague. Yes, we're working on the athletic literature program together, which means sometimes we have meetings. The room service was for me and Janet from the science department. We were comparing curricula. Marcus nodded, as if considering this. Interesting, because I called the Golden Oak. They have no record of a Janet staying there that weekend. It was a bluff. He'd made no such call, but Liana's momentary panic told him everything. I never said she stayed there. She came to my room for dinner. Liana's recovery was quick. Stop interrogating me like I'm one of your employees, Marcus. I'm your wife. Are you? He turned to leave the kitchen. Because wives typically don't sleep with their co-workers. You have no proof of anything, Liana called after him, her voice tight with anger and fear. Marcus paused at the doorway, not turning around. Not yet. The mechanic shop smelled of oil and metal, familiar and comforting to Marcus. Silas wiped his hands on a rag, leaning against a partially dismantled engine. So you confronted her, Silas said, shaking his head. Not the approach I would have taken. Marcus handed him a coffee black. No sugar. I didn't show all my cards. Just enough to let her know I'm not blind. And now she'll be more careful. Possibly delete evidence. She already has been. I installed tracking software on her phone last night. Silas raised an eyebrow. Legal. My name's on the account. And I'm not using it to blackmail or threaten. Just to gather information. For what purpose exactly? Divorce. Marcus sipped his coffee, considering. Possibly. But not just that. I want her to face consequences. Real ones. The kind that leave a mark, Silas nodded slowly. You know I've got your back, whatever you decide. But don't go nuclear too fast. Build your case carefully. That's exactly what I intend to do. Marcus set down his cup. I need to record everything. Every conversation, every lie, every meeting with Dorian. And what about Hallie in all this? Marcus's face softened at the mention of his daughter. She's my priority. Everything I do is to protect her. She's 17, Mark. Old enough to understand what's happening, but young enough to be scarred by it. I know. That's why I need to handle this right. Clean, decisive, with minimal collateral damage. Back at home, Marcus set up his home office as a command center. On his computer, he created a secure folder labeled Backup Files that would appear innocuous to anyone else. Inside, he began documenting everything: dates, times, conversations, inconsistencies in Liana's stories. That evening, his phone alerted him to a call on Liana's device. He put in earbuds and listened. He knows something. Liana's voice, tense and hushed. How much? Dorian asked. I'm not sure. He mentioned the hotel and your cologne. Did he say he had proof? No, but he's not stupid. Marcus notices details. It's what makes him good at his job. So what now? Do we cool things off? A pause. Temporarily. Just until the school year ends. Once summer break starts, we'll have more freedom. What about my place? Kendra's taking the kids to her sister's next weekend. Too risky. Marcus never used to check my phone, but now I think he might. You're being paranoid. He's too controlled to make a scene. You don't know him like I do. He's quiet, but when he feels betrayed, he's ruthless. What's the worst he could do? Divorce you? You get half of everything plus alimony. It's not about money, Dorian. Liana's voice hardened. It's about Hallie. If he proves I've been unfaithful, he could get full custody. Would that be so bad? You've always said she's more his child than yours. Silence. Then, I need to go. We'll talk tomorrow. Marcus saved the recording, his face impassive. So Liana was concerned about custody. That was useful information. And Dorian clearly didn't understand the full picture or what Marcus was capable of when protecting what mattered to him. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. Harris? It's Marcus Alden. I was wondering if you and Leslie might like to join us for dinner next Saturday. Great. And feel free to invite others from the faculty. I like to get to know Liana's colleagues better. Marcus moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, checking the roast, stirring the sauce, adjusting seasonings. Hallie sat at the island counter, chopping vegetables for the salad. Why the big dinner? She asked. Mom doesn't usually like entertaining. I thought it would be nice to thank her colleagues for their support of you this year. Marcus replied, his tone casual. Principal Stokes has always been in your corner. And the Blakes. Hallie's knife paused mid-chop. Why invite them? Marcus glanced at his daughter. Is there a reason we shouldn't? Hallie resumed chopping, her movements precise. No, just wondering. Hallie, is there something you want to tell me about Coach Blake? She kept her eyes on the cutting board. There are rumors about him and different female teachers. Nothing specific about Mom, just general stuff. I see. And your mother? She talks about him a lot, more than her other colleagues. Marcus nodded, absorbing this information. Thank you for being honest with me. Hallie looked up, her eyes troubled. Dad, are you and Mom okay? Before Marcus could answer, the front door opened, and Liana's voice called out, I'm home. In the kitchen, Marcus replied. Liana appeared carrying shopping bags. Her eyes widened at the sight of the elaborate meal preparation. What's all this? Dinner party, Marcus answered. Remember? The Stokes, the Blakes, and your mother are coming at 7. Color drained from Liana's face. Tonight? But I thought we discussed this for next weekend. No, it's definitely tonight. I sent everyone confirmation emails yesterday. Marcus turned to check his phone. See? All confirmed. Liana set down her bags, her composure visibly rattled. I need a shower and change. As she hurried upstairs, Hallie gave Marcus a puzzled look. She really didn't know? Marcus shrugged innocently. Must have slipped her mind with end-of-year stress. By 7, the house was transformed. Candles lit, wine breathing, music playing softly in the background. Marcus greeted Harris and Leslie Stokes at the door, his handshake firm, his smile genuine. Jeanette arrived next, her critical gaze sweeping over the house as if cataloging imperfections. Lovely dinner party, Marcus, she said, her tone suggesting surprise that he could manage such a thing. Where's my daughter? Still getting ready. She's had a busy day. The doorbell rang again. Marcus opened it to find Dorian and Kendra Blake. Dorian's confident smile faltered slightly upon seeing Marcus, while Kendra's sharp eyes missed nothing. Welcome, Marcus said warmly. Please come in. Liana will be down shortly. In the living room, conversations flowed easily. Marcus played the perfect host, attentive and charming. When Liana finally appeared, her hair still damp at the edges, her makeup hastily applied, all eyes turned to her. Sorry for the delay, she said, her smile too bright. End-of-year grading. We understand. Harris nodded sympathetically. It's a demanding time. Throughout dinner, Marcus watched the subtle dance between Liana and Dorian, the careful avoidance of eye contact, the flinch when their hands accidentally brushed reaching for the salt, the way Liana tensed every time Dorian addressed Marcus directly. So, Dorian, Marcus said during dessert, Liana mentions you're developing a new athletic literature program. Sounds fascinating. Dorian cleared his throat. Yes, it's about incorporating sports memoirs into the English curriculum. Liana's been working late on it quite often. Must be quite the undertaking. Kendra's fork paused midway to her mouth. Really? Dorian hasn't mentioned working late. An uncomfortable silence settled over the table. It's mostly been during planning periods, Liana interjected quickly. And email exchanges. Those late-night emails. Marcus nodded understandingly. Technology makes collaboration so convenient these days, doesn't it? Harris raised his glass. Speaking of collaboration, I'd like to toast Marcus and Liana for raising such an exceptional young woman. Hallie's valedictory speech was one of the finest I've heard in my 20 years as principal. Everyone raised their glasses, even as Jeanette's smile tightened and Liana's hand trembled slightly. Later, as guests prepared to leave, Marcus deliberately cornered Dorian by the coat closet. Enjoy the evening? Marcus asked pleasantly. Yes, thank you for having us. Dorian's usual swagger was subdued. I've been meaning to ask. Hallie mentioned you might need a reference for that summer coaching position at Pine Valley Camp. I'd be happy to put in a word. Confusion flashed across Dorian's face. I'm not applying for. Oh, my mistake. I must have misunderstood. Marcus smiled, lowering his voice. Easy to misunderstand things, isn't it? like appropriate boundaries between co-workers. Dorian's face hardened. I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. Just making conversation. Marcus handed him his coat. Drive safely. Roads can be treacherous when you don't see what's coming. As the front door closed behind the last guest, Liana rounded on Marcus. What was that about? What was what about? Marcus asked innocently, collecting wine glasses. That whole dinner. The pointed questions, the references to late nights. Just taking an interest in your work, Liana. Isn't that what supportive husbands do? Liana's eyes narrowed. You blindsided me with this dinner. You said it was next weekend. Did I? Must have been a misunderstanding. Marcus's voice remained calm. Like you misunderstanding your wedding vows. Liana stepped closer, her voice a harsh whisper. You have no proof of anything. Yet here you are, defending yourself against accusations I haven't even made. Their standoff was interrupted by Hallie's voice from the stairs. Is everyone gone? Liana straightened, her mask of normalcy slipping back into place. Yes, honey. It was a lovely evening. Marcus watched his wife retreat to their bedroom, her shoulders rigid with tension. His trap was set. Now he just needed to wait for the next mistake. Rain pelted against the windows of Marcus's home office as he reviewed financial documents. The joint account, retirement funds, property holdings, everything needed to be documented before making any legal moves. He'd been methodical in his preparations, seeking the advice of a discreet attorney without Liana's knowledge. A knock at his door interrupted his concentration. Hallie stood there, her face pale, her tablet clutched to her chest. Dad, can I talk to you? Marcus immediately closed his laptop. Of course. What's wrong? Hallie entered, closing the door behind her. She sat in the chair opposite his desk, her fingers white-knuckled around her tablet. I found something. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I needed to use Mom's tablet for research because mine isn't working right, and she said I could. It's okay, Marcus reassured her. What did you find? Hallie hesitated, then turned the tablet around. On the screen was an open messaging app, one Marcus hadn't known Liana used. The conversation was with Dorian, and it left nothing to the imagination. Marcus took the tablet, scrolling through messages that confirmed his worst suspicions. Explicit exchanges, plans for meetings, complaints about their respective spouses. But what hit hardest were the messages about him. He's so clueless. Thinks everything is fine as long as his precious software projects are on track. D. The dinner was a power play. He suspects something. He can suspect all he wants. He has no backbone for confrontation. Never has. D. What about Hallie? Marcus turned her against me years ago. She's just like him, boring, judgmental, always has to be right. The timestamps showed the conversation continuing even during their family dinner the previous weekend. Marcus looked up to find Hallie watching him, tears streaming down her face. She talks about you like you're trash, Hallie whispered. And me too. Marcus set the tablet down, moving to kneel beside his daughter's chair. Listen to me. What your mother says and does is about her, not us. It reflects her character, not our worth. How long have you known? Hallie asked. I've suspected for a while. This confirms it. What are you going to do? Marcus's jaw tightened. She won't get away with it. I promise you that. Hallie wiped her tears. I saved screenshots. I thought you might need them. You shouldn't have to deal with this. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. Hallie straightened her shoulders. I want to help. Whatever you're planning, I want to be part of it. Marcus considered his daughter, seeing not the child he'd protected all these years, but the strong young woman she'd become. All right, but we do this smart, not angry. Can you send those screenshots to my email? Hallie nodded. Already did. That night, as Liana slept beside him, Marcus lay awake, his mind racing. The plan he'd been formulating needed to be accelerated. Hallie's discovery changed things, not just the timeline, but the stakes. His daughter had seen her mother's true face, and there was no going back from that. His phone buzzed with a text from Silas. You still up? Need to talk. Important. Marcus slipped out of bed and went downstairs. He called Silas, keeping his voice low. What's going on? I just got a call from Kendra Blake, Silas said. Marcus frowned. Dorian's wife? How does she have your number? She doesn't. She called the shop asking for you. Figured you might be here. Said she tried your cell, but it went to voicemail. What did she want? To meet. Said she knows about Liana and Dorian and has information you might want. She suggested coffee tomorrow, somewhere private. Marcus considered this unexpected development. Did she sound upset? Surprisingly calm. Calculated even, like she's been waiting for this opportunity. Text me her number. I'll arrange something. After hanging up, Marcus checked his missed calls. Sure enough, there was one from an unknown number. He'd silenced his phone during dinner and forgotten to switch it back. He texted the number. This is Marcus Alden. I understand you want to meet. The response came quickly. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Carter's Coffee on Elm. Come alone. Carter's Coffee was nearly empty at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Marcus spotted Kendra Blake. Immediately, she sat in the far corner, facing the door, a laptop open in front of her. Her posture was rigid, her expression guarded. Marcus ordered a black coffee and approached her table. Mrs. Blake. Mr. Alden. Thank you for coming. She gestured to the chair opposite her. And please call me Kendra. Marcus sat, studying the woman before him. Kendra Blake was attractive in a severe way, sharp cheekbones, intelligent eyes, no-nonsense haircut. She looked like someone who didn't suffer fools. Your friend mentioned you have information, Marcus said, getting straight to the point. Kendra closed her laptop. Before we start, I need to know your intentions regarding Liana. My intentions? Are you planning to divorce her? Forgive her? Try counseling? Kendra's direct gaze never wavered. Because what I share with you depends on your answer. Marcus considered his response carefully. I'm gathering information. When I have enough, I'll make decisions that protect my daughter and myself. Reconciliation isn't on the table. Kendra nodded, satisfied. Good. Because this isn't Dorian's first affair, and Liana isn't as innocent as she might have portrayed herself to him. She opened her laptop again, turning it toward Marcus. 3 years ago, Dorian had an affair with Janet Myers from the science department. I have emails. 2 years before that, it was a parent volunteer. Marcus scanned the emails, noting the familiar patterns: secret meetings, duplicitous excuses, the thrill of deception. And Liana, that's where it gets interesting. Kendra pulled up another file. Liana had an affair with a previous gym teacher, Alan Reeves, before Dorian was hired. I found these when I was checking Dorian's email. She wrote to him from her personal account, not realizing he'd forwarded some to Dorian when he left. Marcus read through the exchanges, his stomach tightening at the realization that Liana's infidelity predated Dorian by years. Why are you showing me this? He asked finally. Because I'm tired of being made a fool of, and I suspect you are too. Kendra's voice was cool, controlled. I've stayed with Dorian for our children's sake, but they're older now. I've been documenting everything, preparing financially, waiting for the right moment. And you think this is it? I think together we can ensure they both face consequences. She's a serial liar. Marcus, take her down. The directness of her statement struck him. No emotional pleas, no tears, just cold, calculated strategy. Marcus respected that. What do you propose? A coordinated approach. If we file for divorce simultaneously, citing their affair, neither can claim it was a one-time mistake or a recent development. We can share evidence, strengthen both our cases. For what purpose? Pennsylvania is a no-fault divorce state. Kendra smiled thinly. Divorce, yes. But custody? Property division? Alimony? Character still matters there. And if their behavior has impacted their professional responsibilities, you're talking about their jobs. The school district has a morality clause for teachers. Affairs between staff members, especially when one has seniority over the other, are explicitly prohibited. Marcus nodded slowly, seeing the full picture. How much evidence do you have? Enough. But I'm guessing you have more recent material. I do, including recordings where they discuss lying to Principal Stokes. Kendra extended her hand across the table. Partners, then? Marcus shook it, their agreement sealed. Partners. The following weeks passed in a blur of strategic preparation. Marcus moved carefully, ensuring Liana suspected nothing while he put all his pieces in place. First came the financial preparations. Meeting with his attorney, Marcus documented all assets, transferring what he legally could to protected accounts in his name only. Not to hide them from divorce proceedings, but to ensure Liana couldn't empty their joint assets once she realized what was happening. She'll be entitled to half of marital assets, his attorney reminded him. But given the evidence of infidelity and its potential impact on your daughter, we can make a strong case for favorable terms. Next came the custody strategy. Marcus compiled a document showing Liana's pattern of emotional neglect toward Hallie missed events, undermining comments, the stark contrast between her public persona as a dedicated teacher and her private disinterest in her own daughter's achievements. Hallie, initially reluctant to be involved, eventually provided a written statement about her relationship with her mother. Reading it had brought tears to Marcus's eyes. "My mother has always made me feel like I'm a disappointment. When I achieve something, she finds ways to minimize it. When I struggle, she treats it as confirmation of her low expectations. My father has been my constant support, my safe place, my example of what unconditional love looks like." Marcus updated his will, ensuring that if anything happened to him, Hallie's future would be secure and Jeanette could not assert control over any aspect of her life. He designated Silas as executor, trusting his friend to honor his wishes. Through it all, he maintained a facade of normalcy at home. He ate dinner with Liana, discussed household matters, even accompanied her to a faculty function where he watched her and Dorian perform their careful dance of public indifference while exchanging meaningful glances when they thought no one was looking. Harris Stokes cornered him at that event, a glass of punch in hand. "Marcus, good to see you. How are things at home?" "Everything's fine, Harris. Why do you ask?" The principal hesitated. "Just checking in. Liana seems distracted lately. Missed a couple of department meetings, turned in her grades late. Not like her. End-of-year stress, I imagine," Marcus replied smoothly. "Plus all that extra work with the athletic literature program." "The what?" Marcus feigned surprise. "The program she's developing with Dorian Blake? She mentioned they've been working on it for months." Harris frowned. "This is the first I'm hearing of it. We have no such program in development." "My mistake then. I must have misunderstood." The conversation shifted to other topics, but Marcus filed away the principal's reaction. Another piece for his case ate tea home that night. As Liana showered, Marcus checked her phone. A new message from Dorian lit up the screen. "Coast clear this weekend? Kate taking kids to her mother's. Could have the whole house to ourselves Friday night." Liana had responded, "Perfect. We'll tell him I'm staying overnight for curriculum workshop in Harrisburg. Same hotel as last time. Already booked. Room 317. Can't wait to taste you again." Marcus took screenshots, adding them to his growing file. Then he sent a text to Kendra. "They're planning a rendezvous this Friday. Room 317, Golden Oak Hotel." Her response was immediate. "I'll be ready." "Are you?" Marcus looked toward the bathroom, listening to the running water, to his wife humming tunelessly as she had for 17 years. "Yes." It's time. He thought of Hallie, who would graduate in 3 weeks, heading to Stanford in the fall. Of the life he'd built, the trust he'd extended, the betrayal that had been repaid. Of Liana's cold dismissal of their daughter, her mockery of his character, her years of deception. She won't get away with it. The school gymnasium had been transformed for the year-end awards banquet. Round tables draped in white cloths dotted the floor. A stage had been erected at one end, adorned with the school colors and a podium bearing the school crest. Parents, teachers, and students filled the room, their conversations creating a steady hum of anticipation. Marcus straightened his tie as he took his seat at a table near the front. Hallie sat beside him, elegant in a simple blue dress, her valedictorian medal catching the light. The seat reserved for Liana remained empty. She was helping coordinate the faculty presentations. "Nervous about your speech?" Marcus asked Hallie. She shook her head. "Not anymore. I know exactly what I want to say." Jeanette arrived, settling into the chair on Hallie's other side. "Where's my daughter?" "Faculty duties," Marcus replied. "She'll join us soon." Jeanette's gaze swept over the decorated gymnasium with thinly veiled disdain. "All this fuss for high school accomplishments. In my day, we saved celebrations for actual achievements." Marcus noticed Hallie's shoulders tense. He placed a reassuring hand on her arm. Well, your granddaughter is valedictorian. That seems worth celebrating to me. Yes, quite the surprise, Jeanette replied, her tone making it clear she found the accomplishment suspect rather than impressive. Though I suppose second in line to the throne still gets to wear a crown sometimes. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Before he could respond, Principal Stokes took the stage, calling for attention. The ceremony began with recognition of various achievements: sports, community service, academic excellence. Throughout, Marcus scanned the room, noting Liana sitting with the other faculty members, Dorian 2 seats away from her. When Liana finally joined their table during a break in the presentations, her smile was fixed, her eyes darting occasionally toward the faculty section. Wonderful ceremony, Marcus commented. Hallie's speech is coming up soon. Yes, I saw the program, Liana replied, her attention clearly elsewhere. Jeanette leaned across the table. Liana, darling, you look tired. These school functions must be so draining. It's been a challenging year, Liana acknowledged. But rewarding, I'm sure. Jeanette patted her daughter's hand. You've always pushed through, even when faced with limitations. Her gaze flicked meaningfully toward Marcus, who met it with calm indifference. He'd endured 17 years of Jeanette's subtle digs about his background, his career choices, his parenting style. Tonight would be the last time. Principal Stokes returned to the podium. And now, one of the highlights of our evening. Please welcome our class valedictorian, Hallie Alden, to deliver her address. Applause filled the room as Hallie rose and made her way to the stage. She stood tall at the podium, the spotlight highlighting her confident posture. Thank you, Principal Stokes. Fellow students, faculty, parents, and guests. She began, her voice strong and clear. As I stand here tonight, I'm reminded that success isn't measured by a single achievement, but by the journey that brought us here. Marcus watched his daughter with pride, noting how the audience leaned forward, captivated by her presence. Liana shifted in her seat, muttering to Jeanette, she'll probably quote some obscure poet no one's heard of, always trying to sound intellectual. Some people are just born average, Jeanette replied, her voice carrying just enough for nearby tables to hear. Though I suppose she got your looks, if not her charm. Marcus saw several heads turn, including Harris Stokes, who frowned from his table. On stage, Hallie continued, unaware of the exchange. Many of us have faced obstacles on our path to this moment. Doubts from others, or even from ourselves. Times when we wondered if we were good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. Hallie paused, her gaze sweeping the room before settling on their table. I want to share something personal with you all tonight. Something about resilience and belief. Throughout my life, there's been one constant source of unwavering support. One person who never questioned my abilities, who taught me that persistence matters more than natural talent. Liana straightened, a practiced smile forming on her lips. My father, Hallie continued, is the only reason I believed I was anything. When others saw limitations, he saw potential. When others spoke of second place, he spoke of journey and growth. The rest? Just noise. The gymnasium erupted in thunderous applause. Marcus felt a lump form in his throat. Across the table, Jeanette's face had gone pale. Liana sat frozen, her smile faltering as nearby parents turned to look at her with curious expressions. As Hallie finished her speech and returned to their table, the applause continued. Students stood, teachers nodded approvingly, and Harris Stokes approached with an extended hand. Remarkable speech, Hallie. Truly inspiring. Thank you, Principal Stokes, Hallie replied, accepting his handshake. Marcus, Harris continued, you should be very proud. I am, Marcus replied simply to Harris's gaze shifted to Liana, his expression cooling slightly. Liana, could I see you in my office tomorrow morning? 8 o'clock. Of course, Liana answered, confusion evident in her voice. Is there a problem? Just some end-of-year matters to discuss. With a nod, he returned to his table. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and photographs. Liana maintained her composure, but Marcus could see the strain in her eyes, the tight set of her shoulders. Jeanette left early, claiming a headache as they drove home. Hallie in the back seat, texting friends. Liana finally broke the silence. That speech was inappropriate. Marcus kept his eyes on the road. I thought it was honest. You encouraged her to humiliate me publicly. No one mentioned you, Liana. Interesting that you felt targeted by a speech about support and belief. Liana turned to face the window, her profile rigid. Harris wants to see me tomorrow. Did you say something to him? About what? You know what? Marcus pulled into their driveway, putting the car in park before responding. If you're worried about consequences, perhaps you should have considered them before starting an affair with a married colleague. Liana's head snapped toward him, her eyes wide. Hallie had already exited the car, giving them privacy. You have no proof. Actually, I have quite a lot of proof. As does Kendra Blake. The color drained from Liana's face. What have you done? Nothing yet. Marcus's voice remained calm. But tomorrow will be different. The morning dawned bright and clear, sunlight streaming through the bedroom window. Marcus had been awake for hours, finalizing preparations. Liana had barely spoken to him since the banquet, leaving for her meeting with Principal Stokes without a word. Marcus checked his watch 8:15 a.m. By now, Harris would be outlining the allegations against her. The morality clause violations, the dishonesty about professional development events, the misuse of school resources for personal communications. His phone buzzed with a text from Kendra. It's done. Filed this morning. Judge Wilson, 9:30 hearing for temporary orders. Marcus replied, on schedule here too. Meeting the attorney at 10, that he dressed carefully the charcoal suit he reserved for important client meetings, a crisp white shirt, his best tie. Today was a day for precision, for formal declarations, for irrevocable actions. Downstairs, Hallie sat at the kitchen island, nursing a cup of tea. She looked up as he entered. Big day, she said simply. Marcus nodded. You don't have to be here for this part. I want to be. For you. He squeezed her shoulder gently. Your mother will be home soon. It won't be pleasant. I know, but I'm not a child anymore, Dad. I can handle it. The sound of tires on gravel announced Liana's return. Marcus straightened, centering himself for what was to come. The front door opened and closed with unusual force. Liana stormed into the kitchen, her face flushed with anger. You bastard. You went to Harris with lies about me and Dorian. I didn't need to lie, Marcus replied evenly. The truth was damning enough. He suspended me pending an investigation. My reputation is exactly what you've earned, Marcus interrupted. Your actions have consequences, Liana. Today is just the beginning. He reached into his jacket, removing a thick envelope. These are divorce papers. My attorney will file them this morning unless you agree to my terms. Liana's anger gave way to shock. Divorce? After 17 years, you're throwing everything away over one mistake. One mistake? Marcus laughed without humor. We both know better. Alan Reeves, the parent volunteer from the drama department. And those are just the ones I know about. Liana's face paled. How did you? Kendra Blake has been quite informative. It seems you and Dorian share more than just a bed. You share a pattern of betrayal. The doorbell rang. Marcus checked his watch again, right on schedule. That will be Jeanette. I asked her to join us. Hallie moved to answer the door, while Liana stood frozen in the kitchen. Moments later, Jeanette swept in, her expression a mixture of confusion and irritation. What's this about, Marcus? I have appointments this morning. This won't take long. Marcus gestured for her to sit. I wanted you present when I outlined the terms of the divorce. Divorce? Jeanette looked sharply at her daughter. Liana, what is going on? Before Liana could answer, the doorbell rang again. This time, Marcus went to answer it. He returned with Dorian Blake, whose confident demeanor had given way to barely concealed panic. What is this? Dorian demanded. I got a text from Liana saying to come immediately. That was from me. Using Liana's phone, Marcus explained calmly. I wanted everyone relevant to the situation present. The doorbell rang a third time. Hallie answered, returning with Principal Stokes, whose grave expression suggested he understood the gravity of the moment. Thank you all for coming, Marcus began, his voice steady. I've gathered you here because what happens next affects each of you. He placed a file on the kitchen island. In this folder is evidence of a years-long affair between my wife and Dorian Blake. Text messages, emails, hotel receipts, photographs, and witness statements. Dorian stepped forward aggressively. "You're bluffing. You have nothing. Room 317, Golden Oak Hotel, last Friday night," Marcus replied. "Kendra has the credit card statements, the hotel confirmation email from your account, and photographs of you entering and leaving together." Dorian blanched, falling back a step. Marcus continued, "I'm filing for divorce today on grounds of infidelity. I'm seeking full custody of Hallie, with no visitation rights for Liana until Hallie turns 18, which, conveniently, happens in 3 months." "You can't do that," Liana protested, looking desperately toward her mother. "Mom, tell him he can't do that." Jeanette remained silent, her expression hardening as the full picture became clear. "I can and I will," Marcus replied. "The evidence is substantial, and Hallie will testify to your emotional neglect if necessary." He turned to Harris Stokes. "Principal Stokes, I provided you with documentation of how this affair has impacted their professional responsibilities. Missed meetings, falsified professional development claims, inappropriate use of school property for personal communications." Harris nodded grimly. "The district takes these allegations very seriously, especially given the morality clause in our employment contracts." Marcus handed another envelope to Dorian. "This contains copies of everything I've given to your supervisor at the athletic department. You're being fired. Not suspended, pending investigation, fired, effective immediately." He then turned to Jeanette. "And you, Jeanette, for 17 years, I've endured your condescension, your thinly veiled insults about my background, your constant undermining. That ends today." Jeanette's face tightened with indignation. "How dare you speak to me this way in my daughter's home?" "My home," Marcus corrected. "My name is on the deed. And as of this morning, I've revoked the standing invitation I extended to you years ago. You're no longer welcome here." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a quieter, more dangerous tone. "You underestimated the quiet ones. That was your mistake." The kitchen fell silent, the weight of Marcus's words settling over everyone present. Hallie stood in the doorway, her face solemn but resolute. Liana broke the silence, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and fear. "You've planned this for months, haven't you? Gathering evidence, setting traps, waiting for the perfect moment." "Yes," Marcus acknowledged without apology. "Just as you've planned your deceptions for years. What do you want from me? To beg? To plead for forgiveness? I want nothing from you anymore, Liana. That's the point. The papers outline a fair financial settlement, half the marital assets, no alimony. Sign them, and you walk away with your dignity at least partially intact. Fight me, and I release everything to your colleagues, your friends, your professional network." Liana stared at the papers, then at the faces surrounding her. Jeanette's cold anger, Harris's disappointment, Dorian's panic, Hallie's quiet resolve, and Marcus's implacable determination. "You're destroying my life," she whispered. "No," Marcus replied softly. "You did that yourself. I'm just ensuring you face the consequences." He placed a pen beside the papers. "Your choice." The courtroom was nearly empty, just Marcus, his attorney, Liana with her lawyer, the judge, and court personnel. Hallie had offered to come, but Marcus had insisted this part of the process was better handled without her. Judge Wilson reviewed the settlement agreement, her expression neutral. "This is quite straightforward for such a long-term marriage. Ms. Alden, you're waiving any claim to alimony?" Liana nodded, her eyes fixed on the table before her. "Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Alden, you're seeking full legal and physical custody of your minor child, with Ms. Alden having no visitation rights until the child turns 18. "That's correct, Your Honor. Our daughter will be 18 in less than 3 months, at which point she'll be leaving for college. The arrangement is primarily to formalize the current situation." The judge studied them both over her reading glasses. "Normally, I would question such a one-sided custody arrangement, but given the evidence submitted regarding Ms. Alden's conduct and the child's age, I'm inclined to approve it." She signed the decree. "Divorce granted. Property to be divided as outlined in the settlement." Custody awarded as requested. The gavel fell with a sense of finality. Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders, not happiness, exactly, but resolution. The end of a chapter that had gone on far too long. Outside the courthouse, Liana approached him, her lawyer hanging back discreetly. "You got everything you wanted," she said, her voice hollow. "I hope it was worth it." Marcus regarded her calmly. "This was never about what I wanted, Liana. It was about what you deserve." And Hallie was publicly humiliating her mother what she deserved. Hallie deserved a mother who supported her, who celebrated her achievements, who put her needs above selfish desires. She didn't get that from you. Liana's face tightened. "Will you ever tell her about the others? About Alan, about—" "No," Marcus interrupted. "That burden is yours to carry, not hers." "So noble." Liana's voice turned bitter. "The perfect father, the wronged husband, the moral victor. Does it feel good, Marcus? Standing on the high ground." "It feels necessary," he replied simply. "Goodbye, Liana." He turned and walked away, not looking back even as she called after him. The chapter was closed. There was nothing more to say. Later that afternoon, Marcus received a call from Harris Stokes. "I wanted you to know." The principal began without preamble. "The board has terminated Liana's contract, effective immediately." The morality clause violation was clear-cut. "I see. Dorian Blake is also gone." His wife presented similar evidence to his department head. "Thank you for letting me know, Harris." "There's one more thing," Harris continued. "Jeanette Calloway attempted to intervene with the board president. They play golf together, apparently. She suggested the evidence was fabricated, that you had manipulated the situation." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "And I presented the full documentation." Board President Thompson was unimpressed with Mrs. Calloway's attempt to influence a personnel matter. In fact, he's reconsidering her position on the school's donor committee. "I appreciate your integrity, Harris. Hallie is a remarkable young woman. Marcus. Stanford is lucky to have her." After hanging up, Marcus sat at his desk, processing everything. The divorce was final. Liana had lost her job. Jeanette's influence had been diminished. The consequences he'd planned had been delivered with precision. Yet there was no joy in the victory, only a quiet satisfaction that justice had been served. Not revenge for its own sake, but consequences proportional to the betrayal. His phone buzzed with a text from Silas. "Court done? Need company?" Marcus replied, "Yes. And yes. Bring beer point." 3 months passed like a dream. The divorce finalized, the house sold, a new beginning taking shape. Marcus stood in the empty living room of their new home, smaller than the old one, but with better light and a view of the park. Moving boxes surrounded him, each labeled in Hallie's precise handwriting. She'd taken charge of the packing, organizing their possessions with the same methodical care she applied to everything. "Dad," Hallie called from upstairs. "Where do you want these photo albums?" "In the study, on the built-in shelves," he replied. Footsteps on the stairs announced Hallie's descent. She placed a box labeled Photos Pre-2015 on the floor. "I found these in the attic of the old house," she said, opening the box to reveal several albums. "Wedding photos. Should we keep them?" Marcus knelt beside her, lifting out the white, leather-bound album. Inside, images of a younger version of himself smiled beside a radiant Liana. They looked happy, hopeful, unaware of what lay ahead. "Yes," he decided. "They're part of our history, part of how you came to be." Hallie nodded, relieved. "I was afraid you'd want to burn them or something." "No need for that. What happened doesn't erase what was." The doorbell rang. Hallie jumped up to answer it, returning with Silas, who carried a potted plant and a 6-pack of beer. "Housewarming," he announced, handing the plant to Hallie and the beer to Marcus. "Place looks good." "It's getting there," Marcus replied. "Just in time for Hallie to leave us for California." 2 weeks, Hallie confirmed. "But I'll be back for Thanksgiving." Silas leaned against the wall, surveying the living room. "Heard anything from Liana?" Marcus shook his head. "Not directly. I know she's living with Jeanette for now, looking for teaching positions out of state." "And Dorian?" "Kendra said he's working at a sporting goods store. Minimum wage, no benefits." Silas nodded slowly. "Karma's a patient collector. Hallie excused herself to continue unpacking, leaving the two men alone. Silas opened 2 beers, handing one to Marcus. "You did right, Silas said after a long pull. "Some men would have exploded, made a scene, maybe gotten violent. You were surgical. I had Hallie to think about. And myself. I couldn't let her destroy what we built. Still, must be strange. 17 years of marriage gone." Marcus looked around the new house, clean lines, fresh start, no ghosts. Not gone. Transformed into something else. A lesson, maybe. Always the philosopher, Silas chuckled. So what's next for Marcus Alden, newly single software architect and empty nester? Work, reading, maybe travel once Hallie's settled at Stanford. Marcus shrugged. "I haven't thought that far ahead." "Well, you're still second place in our fantasy football league," Silas teased. "Some things never change." Marcus smiled, remembering Liana's cruel words at the award ceremony. "As long as I'm first in my daughter's eyes, that's enough." 2 weeks later, Marcus stood at the airport departure gate, Hallie's carry-on bag at his feet. Around them, other families said goodbye to college-bound students, mothers crying, fathers offering last-minute advice, siblings making faces. "Got everything?" Marcus asked, though they'd checked twice before leaving home. "Laptop? Chargers? Medication? All packed," Hallie assured him. "And if I forgot anything, Stanford probably has stores nearby." "They do. I checked." Hallie laughed. "Of course you did." The boarding announcement came over the loudspeaker. "First call for a flight to San Francisco." "That's me," Hallie said, suddenly looking younger, more vulnerable. "I guess this is it." Marcus pulled her into a tight hug. "This isn't an ending, Hal. It's a beginning. Your beginning. I'm going to miss you so much. I'll be right here whenever you need me. Call anytime, day or night." Hallie pulled back, wiping away tears. "Mom never showed up to say goodbye." "I know. I'm sorry." "I'm not," Hallie said firmly. "It just confirms I made the right choice staying with you." She picked up her carry-on, squared her shoulders, and took a deep breath. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything." Marcus watched as she joined the boarding line, her student ID ready in hand. She looked back once, offering a brave smile and a final wave before disappearing down the jetway. But he stood at the window long after the plane had taxied away, watching until it became a speck in the sky, then vanished altogether. His daughter, flying toward her future. Strong, resilient, unbroken despite everything. As he turned to leave, his phone buzzed with a text from Silas. "She off okay?" Marcus typed his reply. "Yes." Proud and terrified in equal measure that she'll be fine. "She's your daughter." Marcus smiled, pocketing his phone as he walked through the terminal. Around him, life continued, travelers rushing to connections, families reuniting, airport staff directing the flow of humanity. He had survived the betrayal. He had protected what mattered most. He had ensured consequences for those who deserved them. The scars would remain, but they were badges of a battle fought with dignity rather than destruction. Outside, the summer sun warmed his face as he walked to his car. A new chapter was beginning, not just for Hallie, but for him as well. And for the first time in years, he felt truly free.